So next up, we will go to Valley Water, and we have Mike Potter and Matthew Wilson here tonight.
Good evening. Matt has got our slide deck. We'll share that. We are a government district that is responsible for ensuring that our county has a safe and reliable and clean supply of drinking water, as well as providing flood protection and protecting our environment. So my name is Mike Potter, and I lead our community outreach team. And we are in a drought, as you may have heard. And so we are reaching out to folks in the community. And Matt Wilson is also on this program, and he's helping with the slides. And Matt has been with Valley Water on 2 different occasions, and I've been here almost 3 years. And so we are excited to be with you. I know of your organization, and was thrilled to be able to share some information. So we've got a few slides. Some of it goes pretty deep into where water supply comes from. We may clip through some of this quickly in order to get to your questions, but we have some great programs that will help you to know more about what we do and how we can help you. So Valley Water has been around for almost 100 years, and we are tasked with ensuring that we have clean water, and you know, with our huge population here in this county, almost 2 million residents and businesses in 15 cities, and there are almost 5,000 well owners. So making sure there's enough water for everyone is a tall task, and to make sure that we don't overpump water from the ground is another part of what we do. We also provide flood protection, as I mentioned, and what we do is you don't get a water bill from Valley Water. That would be, unless you have a well, that would be one of the retailers. So there are 13 local water providers that get water to you. San Jose Water is one that you may have heard of. City of San Jose also actually provides water to almost 180,000 residents through their municipal water system. It also allows them to get water in some parts of the city of San Jose from the Hetch Hetchy system way out in North San Jose for Alviso. And so some of the cities provide all of their water, or have partnerships with different private sector providers. It's a sort of a depends on when that area was developed. We do flood control, and we focus on being good stewards of the environment, and we do that in a number of ways by taking care of streams and watersheds and hosting cleanup days and other efforts. We have a budget of almost $830 million. We have nearly 900 employees, and a lot of that budget is to repair and replace and maintain this aging water infrastructure. Many of it was built 60 years ago, and addressing our water supply outlook in the current drought. Let's go to the next slide, Matt. This slide really speaks to why we exist. I won't go too much into it, other than as our population grew and the demand for water grew, people started pumping more and more from the ground, and there was water there, so they kept pumping. What they didn't realize, or maybe we didn't realize early enough, was that when you overpump from the aquifer, the ground level will sink. It's called subsidence. And in some parts of our county, in North San Jose, the ground actually shrank 13 feet. So, and once it goes down, it can't go back up. It's like a sponge, and when you squeeze the water out of it, it doesn't come back. So part of the reason Alviso area in North San Jose has levees and is below sea level is due to this over pumping back in the 30s and 40s. So coming around 1950, we built some additional reservoirs, and we built Anderson and a number of the other ones to capture some of that rainwater, so we'd have more water when it wasn't raining. And that worked for a while, but our population boomed after World War II, and the orchards were replaced in many places by homes and businesses. And so we participated in the State Water Project, and you can see that on the blue line. That's number 4, and on number 5 is when we joined the Central Valley Project in the early 80s. And so we pay into those systems, and we get about half our water from outside of this county. And so, Matt, we go to the next slide, you'll see a little bit about where we get all that water. And you moved your slide, but I didn't. Sorry about that. About 30% of our water supply comes from local sources, our groundwater, our reservoirs, what we've been able to capture locally, and 50% of it's imported. And then we recycle about 5% of our water, and we're hoping to see that number grow. And then we count conservation when we save. We count that as 15% of our water supply. But during this time of drought, we are, those imported waters that we would get from the Central Valley and from the state and federal, they come with they can limit the percentage we get. So this is a particularly tough time when there's a drought. So we've had to explore other ways to get water. So let's go to the next slide, Matt. This is part of the challenge. This is where people use their water in our county. You can see the purple there. That's like the average home. About 55% of our county's water is used by in a residence. About half of it indoors and about half outdoors. Businesses are about a 30%, 31% of our water supply. And then agriculture, mostly in South County, is 8%. And then in some areas, the freeways and roadways, they have dedicated landscaping with meters. And so that's about 6%. So when you look at the largest uses, residential, you can see within that, the toilet, shower, and different things, and those percentages on there. But the other part is half is used outside for landscaping. And so one of the areas where we're encouraging people to conserve without, going without showers or toilets or laundry, but to be sure to be efficient with those as best you can, but maybe not water the lawn. And so reducing your outdoor residential use, and in the summertime that can be 50% of a home of our water supply. So we're encouraging folks to just water 2 days a week. And you can learn more about all of this at watersavings.org, which is our website that shares all of the information about how we encourage people to save water. And then, let's go to the next slide, Matt. And that talks a little bit. We've got this big system with reservoirs and pipelines. We have 10 reservoirs, 42 miles of pipes, big pipes, 3 water treatment plants, a water purification center, and nearly 400 acres of percolation ponds. We call them recharge ponds also. And so that's our network. And this was built a long time ago, some of it. So we're rebuilding it. Go to the next. It shows really the status of where we're at. That we are in a severe drought in our county, going to be extreme soon. So this is slide is updated every 2 weeks, and it just gets redder and redder. We had a great December, very wet. And then we went into the driest 2 months, the driest January and February since we've been keeping records. And so we're not out of this drought. The projections are we're going to go into another one next year. They don't see the rain coming. So in the early forecast, it could change, and we hope it does. So as a result of that, we're really encouraging folks to help hit that 15% reduction in our use. And so we'll go to the next slide here, Matt. And part of the challenge locally is that we've normally we store a lot of water that we bring in from other areas in the Anderson Reservoir, kind of up behind Morgan Hill at the very end of San Jose there. And we were ordered to lower the level of Anderson due to the seismic concerns. It was built to code in 1950, but it was feared, and it's been studied and determined that if it was full during a storm event and there was an earthquake, it could fail, and that would lead to 25 feet of water hitting Morgan Hill in minutes. And then, within a couple hours, downtown San Jose would be very wet and flooded, and that water going into Morgan Hill would just keep going all the way to the Pajaro River. So the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which regulates this dam, said it is not safe, and so you need to stop putting water behind it. So we lowered that water. We lowered the reservoir. We opened the outlet. We were able to capture most of that water and put it into the ground through the percolation ponds on the way. Some went to the bay and cleaned, went down Coyote Creek, but we were able to recapture a good percentage of that, a very large percentage, a majority of it. And so that project is underway. It's going to take 10 years. It's a big project. We have to build a new outlet tunnel. It's a 20-foot concrete tunnel that's a half a mile long that makes a bend. And we're going to put an 8-foot pipe in the middle of it. So if there is an earthquake and there's something happens to that tunnel, there's a pipeline that still holds the water. And so that, and it won't go under the dam, it's going to go into the hill. Then we have to lower the dam safely and then build it back up safely. Can't just open the canal, open the canyon, because if we have a wet winter, we would cause tremendous flooding. So it has to be done in stages, and it's a complicated and a pretty tight corner there, actually. But we are making progress, and work has started and is underway, and you can learn more about that on our website. We have a project page for that. This is how much water's costing during a drought. During a normal year, $200 an acre foot, which is enough water to cover a football field with 1 foot of water. And an acre foot, about 320,000 gallons. Went from $200, it's now over $1,200. So this is what happens when supply and demand. There's scarcity of water in our area, and so to get it, we have to pay more. Our team usually can find it for a better price than that, but it is expensive right now. Let's go to the next slide. It's one of the challenges is our climate is changing. What used to be a long snowpack into the summer months, ski resorts are open until July and August, and they're just, the snow's not lasting, or it's not even sticking as snow, it's rain. And so if we're not capturing that water while it's coming down the creeks, or have a place to put it, then we won't have it in the summertime. So the snow kind of acted as a frozen reservoir for us in a way, so that it slowly trickled into our system. Let's go to the next slide, Matt. This is one of the ways we're hoping to solve. We're going to grow that 5% that we get from recycling. We're hoping to have it at least 10%. And we are studying building another advanced water purification plant. We have one in Alviso right now that can take the water from the sewage treatment plant and purify it using microfiltration, reverse osmosis, UV light, disinfection, and advanced oxidation, and essentially make it into distilled water. And then we're going to take that water. The plan is we're studying taking that water and piping it to the perk ponds in Campbell, in Los Gatos Campbell area, and using that to refill our aquifer. So it'll go through the soil into the ground, and then we'll pump it back up later on when we need it. And so we think we could do more than 10 million gallons a day of purified water. And we have a plant that is an excellent pilot project in Alviso. It's one of the best tours there is. I highly recommend, and we're doing in-person tours again starting in 2 weeks. I wrote this date down so I'd have it, and then I put it on another page in mid-October. And so it'll be it's just a great, you can't believe you're in the middle of Alviso, and there's this super sophisticated water treatment plant. And so we're in the EIR phase of this. We're studying either building one in Palo Alto, the plant, or building another one in San Jose, and then putting in a pipeline to take that water to the west side and put it in the perk ponds in Campbell, Los Gatos area. It's not an inexpensive project. We're working with a private partner to try to spread out the operating costs of this, and that's we are we've got some more information about this on our project page as well. And we'll go to the next slide. And often what comes up in our presentations is people ask about desalinization. It's the same kind of a factory as I just showed you, the plant, only to take the salt out is even more expensive and more complicated. So uses 4 times to 5 times as much electricity. And so we are studying this, but we are not on the ocean. We're not far from the ocean, but we'd have to pump that water over the Santa Cruz Mountains. And the bay is really, it would really impact the bay if we started pumping 10 million gallons a day from our bay area into a plant. So we are studying it, but it's not something that's on the front burner for us right now. So let's go down, Matt. Let's go to the green slide. Skip that one. Next one. This talks a little bit about what our board has done. Director Estramera, who was on earlier, we're encouraging people to only water before 7 or after 7 and no more than 2 days a week. This is watering their yard. Encouraging you to, if you're not having football practice or youth sports or some other activity that maybe it's time to let the lawn go brown, But keep the trees wet, keep the plants wet, and use your outdoor watering for that. We're really hoping everybody can help us reach that 15% water reduction target. Let's go to the next slide. And this is how we're trying to help people do that. We have at that watersavings.org ways to go for a landscape rebate. So we'll pay you to take out your lawn and put in native plants. We'll help get sprinkler timers or connect you with contractors that are licensed to do rain barrels under the rain gutters, or hook up a hose to your wash machine so it goes into the yard and waters the shrubs. And that's all the things that you can find out about at that watersavings.org. And then the other kind of tricky thing, we got another site here, the shopping cart that you can go to, and we'll send you hose nozzles and things to make sure if your toilet's leaking and stuff like that for free. Just got to be in Santa Clara County, and you can go to that website right there with that shopping cart and order some items. And there's like little water meters to make sure your house plants, you don't have to water them if they don't need it. And this little thing will tell you if it's a little meter. And it's pretty slick. So you can go to that site and order some supplies. Let's go to the next one, Matt. And this is a little tricky, but our board, because this drought is so severe and we're so concerned about what could happen, we are created some enforcement. The idea is not to criminalize somebody. We're going to send somebody, if your neighbor waters their lawn every day of the week and has, a golf course quality lawn, that's probably overkill and in violation of the drought ordinance. You're supposed to water only 2 days a week. So we'll go out and talk to them. We'll send somebody out, or if they have a sprinkler that's leaking like this one in this picture, but their sprinklers go on in the middle of the night and nobody knows it, but you're a night owl and you see it, but maybe you don't want to go talk to your neighbor. We'll call them, and you can report it to this phone number or send us an email with the information. We'll send them a letter, and then we'll send them another letter if it continues. And only after a third, if somebody was really egregiously not following or not taking it seriously, could we find somebody. I don't think we've done any fines yet, but the board has taken this action to authorize that. And it's a big deal, and it's happening around the state, but it's not something that our water district has done in the past. So we wanted to call this out to your attention. One of the other things our board did during this pandemic and crisis, when folks were struggling to earn a living and to pay their bills, you got to have water to live. And so the board has put funds with Sacred Heart Community Services to help low-income residents that are struggling to pay their water bills. This is a way to help provide some relief to them to do that. And so you can learn more about that at our website or also through Sacred Heart Community Services. And there's just a simple form to fill out, and it's called our Water Rate Assistance Program, or WRAP. And this is something that's seen a lot of interest, and the board has set aside a sizable sum to make sure that we can help those residents that are struggling. So wanted to call that to your attention. And then this is a picture this is the San Luis Reservoir during the last drought. And that big square box is the thing that's our water intake. So underneath that is a pipeline that comes to our pump plant that brings that water to Santa Clara County. So when there's a really big drought at San Luis Reservoir, or the water gets pumped out already, well, we can't really get it. So we do need to try to make sure we can get water when it's there and have a place to put it for when it's not around. I covered a lot of information. Happy to answer questions. And if we don't have the answer, we'll get the answer. But these are the numbers to reach if you have a water waster that you want to have us talk to, or you can email us, or if you have questions or want to learn more information, that beheard.valleywater.org has got a lot of great drought information, and we have videos and different things as well. And I'm happy to answer your questions at this time.
All right,
I didn't talk too much there.
No. Great information. Attendees, please raise your hand or use the Q&A feature. And Trudy, I think you have your hand up, so I'll promote you to panelist. Then I have a couple of questions, but I
Sure.
can't. Wait.
I had a feeling you might.
All right. Trudy, go ahead. I'll go ahead and go first then.
Nope, I apologize. I didn't unmute myself.
Okay.
Hi, Trudy.
Hi there. My first question has to do with what are we doing to get past the ick factor on the purified water? And then the second question is reverse osmosis. I know in the past that was hugely inefficient, that it took like 7 gallons of water to produce 1 gallon of water. As far as the residential systems are concerned, are those any more efficient today? And are those recommended?
Well, that's a great question. I am the poli-sci major, so I will cover the science that I know enough to answer your question. So the reverse osmosis I mentioned is at our giant advanced. I mean, that's, you know, acres and acres of these, and to process all that water. And so on the industrial scale, they actually have they push that water through a series of little tiny like straws. It looks like a straw. It's a membrane, and they're really long. They're in these big tanks, and there's thousands and thousands of them, and they have little tiny holes in them that are only big enough for the H2O molecule to come out, and none of the bad stuff. So as it pumps stuff through the water, through the water as it's been purified, the only thing that can exit there is water. So and there's just a number of, so the disinfection from the UV and all these different things are in big stages. It goes from place to place to place, and then it goes into a big tank. And so it's far beyond. This is not a Brita system. This is, you know, millions and millions of dollars in high tech. This is what they use on the space station. The same thing. So while reverse osmosis, as far as creating water, it wouldn't be efficient. This is just a number of steps, and it once you do the tour, part of the reason we have tours out there is so that people can realize at the end of the tour, when they take a taste, that actually the water has no taste. It tastes like distilled water. But it is still not, in California, you can't just hook that up to our water supply pipes and bring that to homes. In parts of the world you do, but not in California. That is not legal, and we aren't proposing doing that. We're proposing putting it in a big pipeline and taking it to the perk ponds, where it will then go through the soil just like the rain does, and then settle and pick up, and actually it will pick up some flavor and something and as it goes through the soil, and then it gets pulled back up through a well and will be purified or and treated, and then used as drinking water. So this is sort of a roundabout way of taking what is the ick factor water from the sewage plant and purifying it. It is going to be a public process. We are still in the environmental, so we haven't even started doing much community outreach. We do mention it at every one of these presentations, and we've done, gosh, 70 of them so far this year. And you know, we've got and we'd invite your group to come out and check it out. And at the end of the tour, they offer you a taste, and so you don't have to do it, but it does help folks overcome that. But it is, yeah. But I
have experienced that before. I've done one of the tours in the past. So it's good to hear that on the industrial level, that it sounds like it's 1-to-1, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
As far as your website is concerned, though, and in educating people, because most people in San Jose don't like the flavor of their water, so they're getting, a lot of people either go to a water store or at their grocery store, or they're buying plastic bottles of water, which we don't want. So on your website, does it indicate the best method of making your water taste better? And again, going back to the question, excuse me, the home reverse osmosis systems, which, like I said, in the past took like 7 gallons of water to produce 1.
Right.
Are those more efficient? And are you educating people about
I would say this, and this is a general statement. We would say you don't need to do any home filtration your water meets and exceeds all safety standards. So we are the wholesaler. So we make sure that there's water underground for San Jose Water Company to pump up and purify. We do purify water at 3 big plants. And so in some parts of the county, they get our water from our purification plant. But other places, depending on where you are, you may be getting well water from your neighborhood. And so that may have a hard taste, or you may be getting water that we pumped from. This sometimes happens in the summer months when San Luis Reservoir is full, but it gets really warm, and so there can be algae on it, and we're we still are able to pull water, but there's a flavor issue. And so in order to overcome that, you treat it with chlorine and other things to make sure that the algae is gone. But then you have chlorine water, and it's safe and it's clean, but it doesn't taste great. And so there are issues. We don't have a preferred filter. That's a long way of saying we don't have a preferred filter method because every neighborhood's a little different in our county, and it's a county. We operate a countywide thing. Some people in North San Jose, where the Hetch Hetchy pipeline is, they're getting the same water they get in San Francisco, and it's stored in a granite canyon, and it goes from snow to this granite clean canyon, and then it's piped directly down to where they use it. So that is a different type of water, and I know they win awards for their delicious water in San Francisco. But there's only one of those canyons. We're not going to do that to Yosemite. So to store water, and so it is. But we rigorously test our water, and we meet or exceed all safety standards. If we don't, we do alerts, and we do media out. We let residents know in the immediate areas, and our retailers do as well. So, but that's a good question, Matt. We can track that as well and see if we have something on our Be Heard page about if there's there are some. I should say this: in South County, some of the wells have there's a chemical, and I'm going to blank on which one it is, that can be a risk for pregnant women. And so we do a ton of community outreach there. I don't do it, or I would remember what it was, but it is something that can be of risk. And we will pay for if you're on well water there and you don't have additional treatment, we will pay for a meter or a test equipment to make sure that it meets those standards and doesn't exceed standards for folks in that area. We sometimes have a hard time getting people to take it. It's just a limited area, but so it's a big county, and so one size solution really doesn't always match. And there are 5,000 people who use wells in our county, which is more than I realized before I came to Valley Water.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'll just know, I don't know if the pipes in a person's home are a factor, but it could be that's why sometimes they're or the city's pipes, why the water gets a taste that some people may not want. We have
very hard water here, so it is just, there's minerals in our water, and so from a pH scale, it clogs your coffee maker here more quickly than in other places that don't have water that is as hard on the pH scale as ours. So that is just true in general in our county.
All right, I think we're fortunate. We have a fridge with a filter on it.
Yep.
That we replace. So that's how we get our water. I had a question about the water rate assistance program.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if the whatever you call it, the retailers, whatever San Jose Water Company is, do they notify people? Like, let's say if somebody is behind on their bill, do they let them know, hey, there's this program?
Yeah, they have been doing quite a bit of sharing of our information, especially on, like, we have that shopping cart, and so you can get nozzles and different things. So they were publicizing it faster than we could fill the orders. So we had a bit of a backlog at first. We've since streamlined, but we were all doing extra work to make sure these orders got sent out, and so they've since staffed up and got some systems in place that make it work. But we meet with our retailers, twice a month, on a call just to make sure they have, and we know what they're publicizing. So yeah, they definitely are getting the word out. But that's a good thing to check too, Matt. Let's make a note to follow up on that. And Sacred Heart is doing their part to get the word out as well.
Right, right. I imagine they are. It's just the more people that know, the more people that
Absolutely.
And then I think it's great that your purified water will go back to the what would you call them? The percolation ponds.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, that definitely gets rid of the X factor for me.
Yeah, and you know, we're not the first to do this. In Orange County, they were having problems because they were pumping water from the ground, and then as that water leaves, the salt water would intrude from the beach because they're on the coast. And so they, years before us, at a scale that we can't imagine, they're 120 gallons a day they process and put back into the ground, in part to keep that seawater from coming in, but also they don't have, you know, they only get so much water. You know, they built all those houses in Orange County and they get even less rain than we do, and they're further away from the Sierras. So they really need to have a better way to replenish their aquifer. So if you go down to Orange County, they process at their sewage plant, and they also don't want to put the sewage back into the ocean, which is where they treat it and then pump it out to sea. So they reduce what they do out there as well. So that keeps the coast clean and kind of repurposes it. And no matter what we do, we're going to always have water to flush, right? And so we're going to use it more than once. So
and
it's
then
kind of a
my last
drought-proof water supply.
suggestion.
Yes.
Last suggestion is the water waste phone number.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you could partner with the county or the city who have the general phone number where they reroute calls accordingly. But it might be easier. For example, if you could call 311 and they could connect to your number.
Yeah, that's
only
a great
because it's
idea.
going to be hard to remember that number, right?
Some of the cities also are doing their own water waste if they run their own water utility. So, and then San Jose water companies also, if you see a water waster, they'll also reach out and talk to them.
Oh, got it.
But so in the past, you know, I've been around for a while. I was a water conservation inspector as a contract for the city of San Jose for a year, and I drove around and educated people not to water their yards in the middle of the day and let their hose run. And that was, the city of San Jose hired 4 people to do that when Susan Hammer was mayor. And so we made a dent, and the idea was about educating. I don't think anybody ever got fined. It was just about pursuing and responding to calls, and the regular code inspectors, who were paid a lot more, believe me, could stay doing their work on code inspection and the dangerous things the things they work on. And so we were brought in as extra just to talk about the drought. And so that's something that every city could do. I don't know that any have. So I think our board was not going to wait around. And so they said, we're going to do something. And so we're hoping that the cities would also take this drought as a crisis and do some additional enforcement. It has, but unless they're the water provider, it hasn't always been that way.
All right. Well, I think there are no more. Wait, Paul, I'll promote you to panelist. And Paul, earlier you said that you had to pick the right option. There you go. Go ahead, Paul, whenever you're on. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the work that you and Dick Santos and the others do for the water company to provide it to the city. At the council meetings, though, there is going to be the increases on the water rates, and the people that obviously, as always, on certain parts of town, they're going to be the ones that are going to be most impacted by those increases. And there's a particular unfairness about that, because the people that live on the west side of San Jose, they have the yards. They wash their cars in their driveways, and they water their lawns. They have space, area, and they're not going to go without with their lawns being green. You see, and like people that like, if the water doesn't taste well, they have a choice. They can go and buy bottled water and drink that. There are a lot of people in the city that don't have that option. They don't, so like their taste of water is not going to be some kind of thought that they have that they need to do something about it to change it. There's a powerlessness in poverty.
Mhm.
And so, and people in the more affluent areas, because they have all this space and they want to preserve it, they're the ones that consume more of the water. They got the coffee makers.
That
They got
absolutely is
the
right. Based on the
okay,
yard size, for sure.
right. So what I'm saying is, what's being done to accommodate for that? Because that needs to be balanced. And so
So
that's the question
it's a
that I have.
great question, and we get asked this a lot. So you're spot on. So the city of San Jose operates its own municipal water supply and retailer. So they're the water provider, and they send you a water bill in some parts. So I think it's Evergreen, kind of in District 7 and in North San Jose. And so it's about 180,000 of San Jose's million residents get their water bill from the city of San Jose. And that water bill is at least 25%. I gotta be careful how I say this. It is substantially less than the water that is provided for the other residents who have a for-profit water provider. How's that? And so the way water is allocated is based on your yard size and the size of your house when they set up your water service. And so not necessarily how many people are in the house. So that is a very big variable. But it's the going above your allocation. It happens at different levels for different homes in different parts of San Jose. So if you're in a Victorian house in downtown on a 5,000 square foot lot, your allocation will be X. You may have 10 people there because it's an old house with lots of rooms. And so that they're supposed to factor in the size of the house as well. But if you're on an acre lot in Almaden and you have all these plants, but in a big house, your allocation is going to be higher because of the size of the lot and the size of the house. But that is set by the water company and regulated by the California Public Utilities Commission. And so so I've been looking at my water bill very closely and just going back and comparing it, because we're asking people to save how much they're using this year, 15% from 2019, which was the last wet year. And seeing how many, and so on the water bill from San Jose, I'm in San Jose Water Company area, it'll say, hey, you're doing a good job, you're below your allocation from before. They're not supposed to penalize you. So you're supposed to be able to call them and say, hey, we've got like 2 families staying here and we have more users, so we need a little bit higher allocation before we get in trouble for using too much water. And so that's supposed to be, and that's what they're saying. It's on their website. It's what they're saying. And so that's a case by case basis, I'm sure, but there's supposed to be a system that doesn't penalize you for having a big family or having lots of people in a small house even. But what you've raised comes up in every part of town as well. I had a woman who was convinced that I want to take the water from my shower and use it to flush my toilet. And because I go to the bathroom a lot, and I was like, okay, I don't know how to do that legally, but I'm sure a plumber could figure it out. But so.
Well, one of the reasons why I asked that question is because people that are in Section 8 housing, right? One of the things property owners are doing now is, and they never did this before, is they're saying that now the person has to pay for water.
Yeah.
You see something basic.
And it gets tricky too if you're in a multifamily building that has one water meter, because it was built and didn't require each unit to have its own separate meter. It's really hard to know who's saving and who's not. So we do have grants. We do have a grant that'll help landlords put in separate meters for these types of places. Mobile home parks are famous for having 1 meter, 200 people in a place. So you never know who even has a leak, right? If you don't see your meter spike, you don't know you have a leak. So we do have grants that we do, and we're working with, there's a mobile home park that's owned by the residents in Morgan Hill, and it's I think we gave them a $50,000 grant because they use so much water they have leaks everywhere and to just stop the landscape. They had all these lawns that nobody ever used. And so it costs way more than $50,000 to take out and change everything. But we help get them to do it by giving them this grant. So we do have these things, and if a resident's in a building, we have people that, not me, but experts in this, that will talk to the landlord and say, hey, here's a grant that'll help cover half the cost or a percentage of the cost. It's pretty expensive to have a plumber set up meters, but we can help offset it a little bit so that there's a little more equity and people will know just how much water they're using, at least, and so they can adjust their behavior if possible.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
All right, Mike and Matthew, thank you for joining tonight. We'll share this information with others.
Our pleasure. I would say that some of these programs that I was talking about are a direct result of some of the advocacy from our directors, Estremera and Santos and others who have been very strong on these type of issues for a long time. So we hear from them if they hear things aren't going the way they want. So so just wanted to throw that out there. But it's
Okay,
our pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
all right, thank you. All right, have a good night.